Hey, and welcome back. I'm Bobby. This is Aaron.
Yo.
And this is episode 35. And we were talking about it, and we figured, hey, why not just elaborate on the Motorex thing?
Right, yeah, Motorex.
Yeah, just because a lot of people may be listening to the last episode are like, well, what's Motorex? And instead of having you go somewhere else to find out about it, might as well just hear it straight from us.
Yeah, why not, right?
So, we'll just kind of give the brief little overview for anyone who has no idea, like, what's Motorex.
Right. Where did you first come across Motorex?
It was like back in the not early days of the internet, but the early days of me cruising car stuff on the internet.
Right.
And I mean, was it even like maybe MySpace? Like a dude posting about how you could import, was it?
Probably.
I honestly can't remember, but I do remember when you asked me if I remember going to the website, I definitely remember reading the about on the website for sure. Yeah. What about you? When did you hear about it?
I'm not sure exactly where I heard about it. It was probably one of those magazines, back in the day. I probably saw it on a car or something and then
that logo.
Googled it maybe. But I remember just typing in Motorex.com and it taking me to this oil website, Motorex Oil.
You're like, where are the Skylines?
Yeah. I'm like, cool, but like Skylines, where are they at? Like,
I'm here for those.
But I mean, I do remember finding the website eventually, and it was just like, I don't know. From what I could remember, it was just pictures of these cars. Like you could tell they were parked super tight together in some warehouse, and they always seemed dusty or something weird.
So pretty much any warehouse in Japan where they're keeping cars.
Yeah, probably. I mean, who knows? Yeah. They were probably still in Japan at that point, but they were like selling them. They had them for sale. I remember the prices on them and everything. I'm like, that's pretty wild. Yeah. But, like, didn't understand, obviously, like.
And people thought that was a really high price back then.
Yeah. I mean, for an R34, definitely. Like, that's still $125,000 car. So, like. Yeah. Back then, it's still kind of new. And on top of that, it's kind of wild. They haven't really depreciated.
Right.
At all. Like.
Yeah, because you can still go out and get one for $125,000.
Yeah, for sure. So. Yeah, I mean, those didn't really sell that often, I don't imagine. But they did sell, all the lower models as well.
So,
I imagine.
But what is Motorex? Before we get into the models and all that, like, what is it?
So, Motorex, was supposed to be this company that imported these Skylines and got them federalized by doing crash testing and modifying things like the door bars and glass and things like that. And
pretty much getting it up to the standards.
Yeah, for the U.S. highways, pretty much. It had to go through that to get it up to spec because they were never sold here.
Yeah, so DOT, EPA, all that stuff.
Yeah, and the NHTSA and all that.
And so...
And emissions for California as well, so like... That's a whole different thing on top of, doing the federal crash testing.
Right. Especially if they were selling it in California.
Yeah, which they were based out of.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
They were in Gardenia, California, in a little industrial park next to another performance shop, Blast Racing, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so there was a guy. Hirosaki Nanoshi, and he was working as an exporter to what was he exporting out of the U.S.?
So he was exporting Astrovans.
Wow.
Which,
what the heck?
Yeah.
To Japan.
They were like super popular over there. They were like considered a maxi van. So like they're a big car for Japan. If you're used to seeing these little K-vans.
Small stuff,
yeah. They're like a big thing over there, yeah. And they also exported custom lowriders and things like that are also a big deal in Japan. And
so he was pretty much like the opposite of what everybody's trying to do now.
Right. Except for Japan doesn't have like the 25-year law.
Right.
Like the US does. That's like a US specific thing.
I see.
Is like the 25-year law.
Right, because like Mercedes and BMW and everybody was lobbying because the importation into America of all these different cars was hurting their sales in America.
Yeah, because people were buying these cars brand new and like brand new in their home countries, and they were exporting them to the United States and undercutting the dealerships. Crazy. So right. So they got pissed, and went and they made a specific law for them to stop doing that.
Which is wild, the power of lobbying in car companies and whatnot. Like,
and it was the G-Wagon specifically is why.
Oh, I see.
And that happened in like, I believe 88 it ended up passing. So
basically he worked for this company, and this is where he met like the higher up boss of this company that he worked for. And when the stock market crashed, the higher up boss was looking for something to invest his money in.
Right.
And Hero had always had the dream of importing Skylines into America, and making them legal. And so he convinced Mr. Sawami, who was his higher up boss, to loan him $1 million, and so then he could import Skylines.
U.S., right?
Yeah, exactly. And so he did that, and that's kind of how he started funding it.
Right.
Yeah, and so I guess at that point, he kind of just started importing like a bunch of like the Skyline models.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
like all of them, not just 32s and 33s, 34s, right?
The C10s and the C110s he also was bringing in,
but those that were already 25 years old, right? So those were
all good. Yeah,
those were all good.
Legal. Yeah, but
so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
You never hear about those,
right? And that's what I was gonna say was they don't talk about the 33s, the 32s, or the C models that he brought in. They never talk about that. Right. They only talk about the R34s.
Weird.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Because Sean Morris, who we've talked about in previous episodes, that owns Top Rank, he worked for Motorex. He was one of the partners of Hero.
Right.
And he says that basically they were only selling 1 or 2 cars a month, and a lot of times those were 33s and 32s.
Right.
So
the lower price models.
Right. They were saying that you could get it done by Motorex for under $50,000 for a 32 or a 33 at that point.
Which, dude, back then that's still like,
I mean, with all of the
decent money.
Well, it is decent money, but that is like federalized, right? Like that's like after everything. So if they're saying it's $16,000, so Sean Morris did say in here it's $16,000 for the service. If you found your own car and they had to federalize it for you, it was $16,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's not much, really. It is, but it's not.
Right.
It's not to have like one of these cars 10 years before you're supposed to be able to have it.
Yeah, and I don't know how much like that the carb testing costs nowadays, because you still have to do that to get any of these imported cars into California and to register them there. Like, I wonder how much that is nowadays comparatively to back then.
Yeah, because another thing that they were talking about was some of the modifications that they would have to do beyond the door bars and the glass and whatever else were proprietary to Motorex, and they still haven't even released what those things were that they were doing, which I'm sure were small little things, but like that's just interesting how that happens.
Yeah, the secret.
Yeah. And so right now, the story that we're telling, it sounds awesome. It sounds like, what? This guy, like, he did it. He created a shop. He's getting Skylines. There's Skylines wall to wall.
Yeah.
He's getting some orders.
Yeah.
He's got...
They literally had them crash tested.
Right. Yeah,
and like, that's crazy in itself, dude. Could you imagine going through all this trouble to get this car over here so you can send it to a lab in Wisconsin so they can smash it?
Smash it. Yeah. That would be wild. Like, and that's so... For those, though, they were using... the lower models.
Right. But still, dude.
Still,
like,
it stinks.
That's just like a long piece of the process.
Yeah.
And like, dude, just imagine like, luckily they could like use one car for multiple tests, but just imagine just smashing skylines.
It would probably actually be exciting because you're like making that progress to fulfill the goal in that sense. I mean, it's probably, you're like, yeah, hurry up, smash it, dude. Let's go, you know?
If that's what you were into. Like, who knows? This dude Hero, he doesn't sound like he was like in it for the love of it, right?
Which was is weird. It seems like he was at the beginning, maybe.
Right. But
then he realized it was work.
Yeah. I think Sean obviously sounds like the one that has the love for it.
Right. Yeah. Which
because he's obviously still in it. Yeah. Hasn't left.
And so, so he has all these. He ends up getting these orders. Right. Once people find out you can get the R34, he does end up getting orders. But this is when it all kind of starts to go downhill. It sounds like once he got overwhelmed. Right. Like it just like went downhill, and then you have Sean, who is in charge of all of the modifications. So, at this point, it's all on the Sean guy to get the modifications done with his team.
Right. And then this Hero dude is like going to these bars and like
these Japanese
running
bars,
up crazy tabs and just blowing all kinds of money and
he starts
getting
doing that.
super heavy into drugs and just like
which not good stuff.
Right.
But this all happens over a period of like 5 years, not like at the beginning, but there became a point when it started pushing people away, and then Sean quit.
Yeah.
And then 2 of his other like guys that started with him quit. Yeah. And now he has bills stacked up for the EPA, for the testing labs, all of these different spots, but the cars aren't done fully. They're not DOT approved because that process is long also.
Right.
And so he has no money because he spent the $1 million. He isn't getting money coming in because the cars aren't being finished.
Right.
So then to get money, he starts releasing cars to people where they're not ready yet.
Right.
But just to recoup that money. And he's starting to get himself in a lot of trouble. So what does he do? There's no proof of it, but it leans to fraud, as in like making his own cars disappear.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing. 5 not R34s, but 5 Skylines got quote unquote stolen from Motorex.
Right.
And they never really pursued it. Yeah. And then 2 months later, these 2 cars get stolen from Blast, which is the next door neighbor's shop.
Right.
And Hero goes and tries to make a deal with the owner of Blast saying, hey, I've got info on where your cars are if you want to pay me a couple $1,000.
This dude is definitely on drugs.
Yeah, that's how it seems.
Holy cow,
he was just trying to get his next hit. Like he's like, hey, give me a couple grand and I'll tell you about this kid that stole your cars. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So what happens though is when this guy reports these 2 cars stolen, the same detective who came when the Motorex cars get stolen is talking to this Japanese native guy that has a interpreter there talking to the cop for him, right? And so it's like telephone kind of course.
Yeah.
And he tells him about how Hero came over and offered him that money.
Right.
Yeah, and so then they start investigating into him more, and this starts getting deeper and deeper into what he's involved in what's going on. So, yeah, this guy he wasn't it.
He was wild, dude. Like, and that sucks so bad, right? For the enthusiast in the U.S., because had it been someone else that was on the same level as Sean as far as the passion and like the vision goes, like it would have been a completely different story. Like we would have been having these cars way sooner. Like we would have had these cars years ago because it would have been someone doing the right thing and like the whole market would have been like, dude, the entire market would have been different for Skylines, especially like in the U.S. for sure. I'm sure it would have changed in Japan a little bit as well if like...
It would have went different for sure because people wouldn't have been just stacking them up over there.
That's crazy to think about. Like one guy's actions, back in 2006 or 2005 or whenever it really
ruined it for everyone.
Ruined it for us for
10, 15,
20
years,
yeah, almost 15 years, right?
It's pretty crazy, yeah. And it does just go to show how that stuff will happen. You can think you can do stuff and mess it up and it'll just go away, but this like ruined it for a million people, whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy if you think about it like that. Just like,
yeah, it really is kind of crazy. And so they do these cars. It's about, by the time the DOT tells him you're being revoked is 2006.
Yeah.
So it's about 7 years total that the whole thing goes on. This dude's only 26 years old when he started.
Yeah.
Like, he's only 26 and he gets $1 million loan to import Skylines. That's like kind of young.
Yeah.
Like if
kinda.
You gave me $1 million at 26 and said import Skylines, it's not like I would have went and blew it on coke or chicks, but I would have had a hard time keeping up with everything.
For sure.
And organizing like all of this testing and all of these different and then not to mention paying the monthly bills, and it would have been tough. So I don't know, like, I feel like the hero guy, he was sketchy and he gets a lot of hate, but like he took on way more than he could handle. 100%. And that created his circumstance, right?
Right.
And the little bars are called hostess bars. And basically you go in and you get assigned a girl and she is like your maid/wife for the night. And he was blowing $65,000 a year of Motorex money on that. And then not to mention he bought one of his hostess girls a car. And through Motorex, spent Motorex money on that. And so, he was a kid, and he did what a kid would do.
Right.
And
did not see it.
And it stinks for those people that did like invest in Hero, because he definitely let them down. Right. But it's just tough, man. It's tough. So he starts really going downhill. And it pretty much, he starts losing it, in the sense of he's not showing up to work. He's like getting in fights. He's not paying the employees. Yeah. All of that standard kind of stuff. And, at this point there's no Sean because he was tired of it. He left, and these other guys are left picking up the pieces, and now they're not even getting paid. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
Classic. I'm sure you know what's happening next.
What?
Dude disappears, right?
Oh, yes, of course. So he got in a fight, and his buddy got beat down pretty hard, and this guy just leaves and never comes back. They come in and they try to see what they can salvage from the business.
Yeah. And there's nothing there?
There's nothing there except for like papers and stuff strewn everywhere.
Yeah, some wrecked cars out back.
Yeah, just like junk everywhere. And so they're not able to recover like what these people spent. Yeah. They're not even able to kind of figure out what's next for the people that had ordered these cars, put down deposits, whatever it may be. And so these cars start showing up. The ones that disappeared, they start showing up in random impound lots out on, like, it's almost like it's almost like they were making fun of this in that little short, the Fast and the Furious short, where he goes and finds out in the desert that R34 at this like dusty ass crusty place, and there's boom an R34. It's almost like that was one of the Motorex cars that like
it probably was, dude.
It could,
and actually I think that is technically a Motorex car.
The R34.
The Hero. I think that's actually the
Yeah, no, it is. That was Craig Lieberman's. He got the first Motorex car
Right. That's
ever.
the one that was painted. I guess that's the one that he eventually painted the silver and blue, right?
Yes.
With the blue stripes.
Yeah. So
that is pretty funny.
Yeah,
if you think about it like that.
And it's kind of deep like
wait,
that. In the
is
sense,
that where they found it?
It could have been, yeah, no, but Craig Lieberman, one of the guys that was responsible for casting the cars of the Fast and the Furious original 2 movies, he got the first Motorex car, one of the 14 to 16 that they made.
Right.
Or, legalized, federalized, whatever. And so that ends up being the hero car, as you're saying, in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. This 26-year-old dude is getting cars that are in major motion picture, just this whole thing. And if he had just really focused, dude, he would have done it. Like he would be the man right now.
Yeah, I know. It's insane to think about.
Instead, he's hiding somewhere.
100%. Like, dude, there's no telling. There's no telling, dude.
And it seems as though like a lot of people know that he was just in over his head. And I saw multiple quotes of guys that got screwed by him that were like, it's all good. Like, he was in over his head. I should have recognized it, whatever, and they're like, there's no hate. It's just too bad.
Yeah.
Because they feel the same way.
That's crazy though. They said they recognized it, but they still put up the money and
because they
wanted it so bad,
that is
right?
Crazy. Yes. The skyline effect.
I couldn't even hate on him for it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
because like, dude,
you're gonna get me an R34.
Oh, dude, you're a company.
You're
legit.
Cracked out, but like, yeah, let's do it.
There's kind of shit everywhere, but like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah, and that is a hard thing. I mean, but so what happens? Do they get to keep the cars afterwards? Does the federal government take them? Like, how does this work at this point? If these people have paid him, Skylines are illegal, but like,
right.
How does that work?
Well, they have the ones that are grandfathered in.
Right. So the DOT sends them the bonds, and the bonds basically state that not that like they're legal, but that they look them over and they're good enough to drive on the road. It's like this still weird gray thing, but yeah, they're okay to get registered. They're okay to stay. They can't be exported, for being here type thing.
Right.
So at least for these people that threw down this money and like had this dream, if they got the car, they got to keep it.
Right.
So, but what happens to those guys that threw down money and they never got the car and the dude disappeared?
Dude, who knows? Like,
nothing. They get screwed, yes, because there's no one to take that money back from.
Right.
There's no selling off assets of the company because he took them all.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it just goes to show how you really can get taken advantage of in this industry and in this community if you don't really pay attention. Even if you do really pay attention, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get screwed.
Right.
It's kind of wild.
But now that these cars are like of age though, like it's kind of simpler now, right? Like you don't have to go through someone like that has to do this crazy thing to make this car sellable. So it's like,
but you still do have like it's other worries now, right? Like it's not, is this guy gonna federalize my car and actually deliver it to me? Now it's like, is what I'm buying sight unseen actually what I'm buying in the sense of, condition and all of these other things, right? Yeah. Because Motorex was only bringing in cream of the crop because they were picking long before.
Yeah, they were still new cars.
Yeah,
they were
still
like not even 10 years old. Right. Some of them,
so
for 34s.
It's just a different worry that we have now, right? It's like people want the money, so they'll sell you a dream. Kind of, like just like that guy was. Dude. Like, yeah, just a different dream, right? It's so it is like definitely too bad that this happened. Like you said, I think that it really kind of put a sour kind of taste in people's mouths about these cars and importers and like how legitimate they are,
right?
And so it's like definitely too bad, but it's also something that could be learned from and probably was learned from, in the sense of like, don't mess around like that
with the federal government. Especially
when you're doing something that already isn't really like cool.
Yeah, I mean, the EPA doesn't play around.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
same with like the Highway Safety Board. I don't get it. Right. Like,
yeah,
why are they so like about these cars and emissions and all this? Why are they so crazy about it?
I know.
Like, why are they just like, these are our laws, we stick to it? But like, I don't understand why.
Yeah,
because like
neither.
At the end of the day, I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah, how is this?
I mean,
this Skyline beside us so much worse than this Civic behind us?
Right.
Like, how is that so?
I mean, I'm sure there's like a bunch of safety things involved.
Safety. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But like, I don't know if you're. I mean, I know that risk driving my car, that it's not safe. It doesn't have airbags, this and that, whatever. I wouldn't say it's not safe.
Like, is that about your safety or the other people's safety on the road? I mean, like, how do they look at it? Not you, but them. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't get right. If you're willing to drive it, you sit down and start that car. Right. The fact that like that door can crumple in, that's on you.
I'm consenting, right?
I'm cool with it.
I'm cool with it. Yeah, dude. I got my Skyline, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably how a lot of people think, but obviously their jobs are to be safe, right?
Yeah. But it's just crazy that that's like the hang up on this. On like driving any car you want.
No, this is what's crazy is once it turns 25, you don't even have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so wait.
Oh,
so
no,
wait.
no, we're good.
So if it's not 25 years old, we need to say you safe and we need to protect you. As soon as it's 25 years old, we don't give nothing. We don't care.
Right.
Just take it. Yeah, that's what blows my mind is that I could pick that up at port and not have to have that type of stuff done on it. Like, that's what I always thought. Yeah. Like, once the Motorex, when it was a thing, when they were operating, I was like, this is what we're going to have to do to get these cars. This is insane.
Yeah. Like all the door bars and all that. Like,
and whatever proprietary. 3 catalytic converters they had to put on the car to make it legal.
Stack
3 catalytic. So just like, that's what was going through my mind. Like, man, I'll never be able to get a Skyline. I'm going to have to put $30,000 worth of metal in the thing, let alone like, just getting to register it. And so that is kind of a crazy thing. And it's awesome that we don't have to do that, right?
Because no, absolutely.
There's 4 cars in here that would have had to go through it.
Yeah.
That's like, that would have been a ton of extra money. By those standards, it was $16,000. That means it would have been $24,000 now.
Right.
Like, plus all the time. Yeah, I mean.
At least, yeah.
So, to wrap it up, Motorex was pretty much the first of its kind importer of Skylines who also federalized them.
Right.
But lost the focus.
Dropped the ball.
Didn't realize what an impact on history. Dude, this Hero guy had no clue what an impact on history he was.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows. I wonder if he ever Googles his name.
Right, or if he hey Hero, if you end up listening to this, you really screwed us.
Yeah.
We could have had some dope stuff if he could have stayed off the nose candy and the chicks.
Yeah, as Craig Lieberman put it.
Yeah, that's like. But I mean, no, I mean it is true. I think. How would this market have been affected? Like, we don't know, how much thinner of a stock would there be in Japan right now?
Yeah.
How many more would have gone where? We don't know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I still don't even understand how he was able to do it in the first place. But like, I'm going with it. Like how is a 25-year-old car? It's 25. You can't have it unless you do these things.
Yeah.
And then it's cool. But nobody else was able to do it afterwards because you just ruined it for everyone.
I know.
One bad egg, and like no one else has done it or could do it. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so,
Screw us all.
I mean, we just figured we'd kind of run through the Motorex thing. We don't have all the answers. We weren't there. There's a lot of mysteries that they say people haven't even divulged on how things happen within it, but
there's a big thing on
because there was
plenty
like
of stuff on the internet about
and
it,
like kidnapping and all kinds of other stuff involved with it that we're not getting into, but
we just covered the bases on
the basics, just so somebody who had no clue what Motorex was now at least is like, oh, okay, they they're shitheads, right?
Yeah,
you know, but
they dropped the ball heavy.
Yeah, and I don't think that reflects on Sean Morris because I think he was the one
no
guy
way. He was the
trying.
dude that was making it work, I'd imagine, because it fell apart after he was gone.
Right, yeah, once he left, yeah, and I'm sure, yeah, that haul had a big effect on the end, really tanking because he probably was that, right. fabric. But
that dude's killing it now.
Yeah, he is. He owns Top Rank. I guess I technically bought a car from him. That's cool, I guess. But yeah, that's the Motorex story. That was episode 35.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for 36. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. You can watch the whole podcast and see our cool little garage studio. Follow us on Instagram at RHDGUYS. And for today, I'm Bobby. This is Aaron.
See ya.
Peace.